Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another evening of stories that will make your heart race and your spirit soar. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with me tonight, wherever you are in this vast, beautiful world. Before we dive into tonight's tale, I want to send out a heartfelt thank you to every single listener tuning in from across the globe. Whether you're in the UK, snuggled under a cozy blanket, in Canada, watching the northern lights dance across your sky, in New Zealand and Australia, greeting a new dawn, in the heart of Europe, Belgium, Spain, Sweden, and the Czech Republic, or anywhere else the story has reached us, the United States, South Africa, Argentina, Ireland, Costa Rica, Trinidad, and beyond, I see you. I appreciate you. This community we've built together means everything. If you're new here, I warmly invite you to subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss a single moment of the stories we're weaving together. These tales are designed to be experienced fully, and there's nothing quite like the anticipation of knowing a new chapter is waiting for you. Tonight, settle in, because we're embarking on a journey like no other. This is a story about transformation, not just of the body, but of the soul. It's about a woman pushed to the absolute edge of desperation, a man bound by duty and tormented by secrets, and the unexpected magic that blooms when two broken things find each other in the darkness. I want to prepare your heart for what's coming. This is Moonlit Destiny, a tale of paranormal romance, supernatural power, and the kind of love that defies every rule, every boundary, and every expectation. Meet Elena, a single mother working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over her head and her beautiful daughter's belly full. She's tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones, that ages you beyond your years. She's been abandoned, forgotten, and left to fend for herself in a world that doesn't seem to care. But Elena is strong. Elena is determined. Elena is about to discover she's so much more than she ever imagined. And then there's Kade Blackwood, an alpha werewolf, a man of immense power and authority, shrouded in mystery and danger. He's bound by loyalty to a pack and by secrets that could destroy everything he's built. Kade has a mission, and Elena's going to become caught in the center of it all. But what begins as calculated will become dangerously, passionately real. Between them stands a truth hidden for generations. Elena and her daughter Lily carry dormant werewolf blood. Their bloodline is rare, precious, and sought after by those willing to do anything to claim it. This is a story about what happens when desperation meets destiny. It's about a woman who discovers she has the power to save not just herself and her daughter, but an entire world she never knew existed. It's about a man learning to choose love over duty, freedom over control, and redemption over legacy. You'll experience Elena's transformation from a woman broken by circumstance into a Luna, a leader, a warrior, a woman reclaiming her power. You'll witness Kade's journey from a man trapped by his father's sins into an alpha worthy of true leadership. And you'll watch as a little girl named Lily discovers her own magic, her own strength, and her own place in a world of wonder. But here's what makes this story truly special. It's not just about the paranormal world or the supernatural battles. It's about choice. It's about the difference between being forced into something and freely choosing it. It's about whether love that begins under compulsion can ever become real, true, and lasting. It's about whether we can overcome our circumstances to claim the destinies we truly deserve. Passion awaits you. Transformation will shake you. Unexpected discoveries will leave you breathless. And by the end, you'll understand that the most powerful magic isn't witchcraft or shifter abilities. It's the magic of being truly seen, truly chosen, and truly loved. So take a deep breath. Get comfortable. Put away your distractions. Because we're about to enter the moonlit world where werewolves roam, where pack bonds run deeper than blood, and where one woman's courage might change everything. Are you ready? Are you prepared for Elena's journey? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The coffee maker at Rosie's diner had broken 3 times this week, and Elena was convinced it was mocking her. She stood at the counter, mechanically brewing the 7th pot of the morning shift, watching the dark liquid drip into the carafe with the same mechanical precision she'd watched it drip 10,000 times before. Her hands moved on autopilot. Everything moved on autopilot these days. More coffee, hon? She asked the elderly couple in booth 3, already knowing they'd say yes. They always did. They came in every Saturday morning, ordered pancakes and coffee, and left a $2 tip on a $15 check. Elena appreciated them anyway. At least they smiled. The fluorescent lights of Rosie's buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made the worn linoleum look even more worn. Elena caught her reflection in the chrome napkin holder. A woman who looked 40 trying unsuccessfully to convince the world she was 35. Her blonde hair, once long and silky, was pulled into a perpetually messy bun. The lines around her eyes weren't from smiling. Her uniform, a faded pink waitress's dress from the 1980s, hung on her frame like a shroud. She'd lost weight. Again. Skipping meals was becoming a habit. "Table 5 needs their omelet," Rosie called from the kitchen, and Elena nodded, already moving. No one had to tell her twice. Rosie had been paying her under the table for 5 years, and while the money was barely survival wages, it was survival. Elena didn't complain. Complaining was a luxury item she couldn't afford. The morning shift ended at 2. Elena had exactly an hour to grab Lily from school and bring her home before her evening shift started at the Blackwood Hotel. 8 hours of cleaning rooms, restocking bathrooms, and trying not to be noticed by the corporate guests who treated housekeeping staff like ghosts. Lily was waiting at the classroom door, her backpack swallowing her small 7-year-old frame. Elena's heart twisted every time she saw her daughter. Lily had her father's dark curls and her mother's green eyes. But where those eyes should have held childhood wonder, they held worry. 7 years old, and Lily already knew that money was tight. She already knew to wear the same lunch as yesterday because groceries were sparse. "Hi, Mommy," Lily said, reaching for Elena's hand. Her grip was small and warm, and Elena felt tears prick the back of her eyes. She squeezed gently. "Hey, baby girl. Good day at school." "Mrs. Patterson said something about a field trip," Lily said carefully. Elena's stomach dropped. "Field trips cost money. She said to ask you about the form." "Okay," Elena said, keeping her voice light. "We'll talk about it at home, okay? Let's head to the apartment." The apartment was a studio on the 4th floor of a building that had seen better decades. Mold bloomed in the corners of the bathroom. The radiator clanked at random intervals like a dying animal. But it was theirs, and it was clean, and Elena had put up posters of stars and galaxies on Lily's side of the room to make it feel less like a cage. Elena made Lily a snack of peanut butter and crackers. She'd bought them on sale, and helped her daughter start her homework while she showered away the smell of Rosie's fries. The cold water snapped against her skin. She stood there longer than necessary, just existing in the pressure of it, gathering strength for the next 12 hours. By the time Elena left Lily with Mrs. Chun, the elderly neighbor who watched her for $15 an evening, it was nearly 5 o'clock. The Blackwood Hotel was across town. A luxury establishment where people like Elena didn't belong except on their knees, cleaning up after the wealthy. She clocked in at 5:45 and received her assignment from Tony, the shift supervisor who never looked her in the eye. Executive floor, rooms 2801 through 2815. The executive floor was where the serious money stayed. Elena had learned not to ask questions about who was in each room. She'd learned to knock, wait for a response, and move on if she heard any sound at all. She cleaned quickly and thoroughly, making herself invisible. In her experience, invisible meant safe. By 9 o'clock, she'd finished 13 rooms. 2 remained. She knocked on 2814. No answer. She used her key card and entered. The room was pristine. Hardly used. She was just restocking the bathroom when she heard voices in the main room. A door opening from an adjoining suite. She froze. "The bloodline is pure," a voice said, smooth, cultured, dangerous. "Subject 37 is a perfect specimen. The daughter, too." Elena's breath caught. Subject 37? She knew that number. It was from the file Lily had brought home from the school nurse's office. A routine genetic screening. Nothing suspicious. Just standard childhood testing. "When do we activate?" a second voice asked. Younger. Guarded. Something in Elena's bones recognized danger in that voice. "As soon as we have both under observation. The mother's employment at this hotel makes proximity optimal. We'll move within the week." Elena's hands began to shake. She stood very still in the bathroom, knowing she should stay hidden, knowing she shouldn't have heard this, knowing with absolute certainty that whatever this meant, it meant something terrible. She moved toward the door. She didn't know exactly when she stepped out of the bathroom or when she was spotted. Time seemed to fracture. She saw 2 men, one older with silver hair and cruel eyes, and one younger with black hair and a face like chiseled stone. The younger man's eyes widened when he saw her. "Elena," he said, as if they'd met before. I'll just, Elena said, backing toward the main door. I didn't see anything. I'll just. She ran. She made it 3 steps into the hallway before she wasn't. A hand, impossibly fast, closed around her wrist. The younger man had moved across the space between them in what couldn't have been more than a breath. He was holding her with effortless strength, and his grip didn't hurt, but escape was impossible. Let me go, Elena said, hating the way her voice shook. Please. I don't know anything. I didn't hear anything. I know, he said quietly. Behind them, the older man had stepped into the hallway. Dispose of her, the older man said flatly. No, the younger man said. I beg your pardon? I said no. The grip on Elena's wrist didn't loosen, but the younger man turned slightly. She's the mother of Subject 37. Killing her creates complications. She's heard us discuss the program. I'll handle it, the young man said, and something in his tone made the older man pause. There was power in that voice. Authority. The older man studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. Don't disappoint me, Kade. We're too close to success. He turned and walked back into his suite. The man called Kade released Elena's wrist and stepped back. Elena stumbled, catching herself against the wall. Her heart was a trapped bird, throwing itself against her ribs. What do you want? She whispered. For now, for you to come with me. There's much you need to understand, Elena, and very little time to understand it in. I'm not going anywhere with you, Elena said, but her voice had no force behind it. She was terrified. She was thinking of Lily. She was thinking of the words activate and specimen and weak. Kade Blackwood's dark eyes met hers, and she saw something complicated there. Regret, determination, and something that might have been apology. I'm sorry, he said, and she realized in that moment that this man could have broken her without effort, and he was apologizing for his proximity to her. But yes, you are. Your daughter's life depends on it. Chapter 2. The car was black and sleek and smelled like leather and something herbal Elena couldn't identify. Kade drove with one hand, the other resting on the steering wheel, absolutely calm. Elena sat as far from him as the passenger seat allowed, her body vibrating with adrenaline and fear. Lily, Elena said for the 3rd time. Where is Lily? What have you done with her? She's safe, Kade said. My people collected her from Mrs. Chen's apartment half an hour ago. She's being brought to the safe house. You'll be reunited with her shortly. How did you? Elena's voice broke. What is happening? The truth, Kade said, is something most humans never have to face. You're about to become one of the few. He drove them out of the city, away from the lights and the noise, into darkness that deepened with each mile. Elena's fear crystallized into something sharper as they pulled onto a private road lined with pine trees. The safe house was a compound, sprawling stone and glass nestled into the forest. Security was visible. People moving in the shadows, their eyes too alert, their postures too ready. Pack, Elena would learn to call them. But she didn't know that yet. Lily was waiting inside, held by a beautiful woman with auburn hair, and Elena surged toward her daughter with a sob trapped in her throat. Mommy, Lily cried, and the woman released her immediately. Elena pulled Lily into her arms, checking her for injuries, breathing her in, needing to confirm with every sense that her daughter was whole. It's okay, Kade said quietly, and Elena wanted to hit him. She hasn't been harmed. I gave explicit instructions. Who are you? Elena demanded, still holding Lily. What is this? What do you want? My name is Kade Blackwood. I'm Alpha of the North Cascade Pack. And you are Elena Hartwell, though you've never gone by your birth name. Come, sit. I'll explain what you are. In a drawing room lit by firelight, with Lily on her lap and Kade standing before them like some gothic novel come to life, Elena learned the truth. You're a werewolf, Kade said simply. Your daughter is a werewolf. The dormant genes in both of you are rare, a bloodline that voluntarily transformed centuries ago, which means your family chose this. You have the potential to shift, to access pack bonds, to tap into magic that most humans can't imagine. Elena stared at him. That's insane. Yes, Kade agreed. It is also true. Your mother was half transformed when she had you. She hid it. When she left your father, she severed herself from pack life, tried to live as human. The dormancy ran deep in you. But the genes didn't disappear. My mother left when I was 5, Elena whispered. She'd always thought her mother was unstable. Now she wondered. She was running, Kade said. From something. Perhaps from my father. Elena's eyes snapped up. Your father was the other man in that room. Marcus Blackwood, Kade said, and the name came with bitterness. My father runs an organization dedicated to what he calls awakening dormant werewolves. He believes forced transformation is possible. He's been using test subjects for years. Test subjects, Elena said faintly. People die in experiments. Yes. The word hung in the air like a curse. Why? Elena asked. Why would anyone do this? Power, Kade said. The more werewolves alive and transformed, the more his pack grows. The more his pack grows, the more he can consolidate power within the werewolf world. But he can't force most humans to transform. The change is violent, unpredictable, often fatal. He needs someone special. Someone whose bloodline is already compatible. Someone whose genetics can prove that voluntary transformation is superior. That's you. And when you survive the transformation, when you thrive, he'll have proof that his program works. And he'll use that proof to expand it to thousands. I won't let him, Elena said. You're right. You won't. Kade's dark eyes were intense. But he won't give you a choice. He'll come for you. He'll come for Lily. And there's only one way to protect her. How? Elena asked, though she already knew. She could feel it in the way Kade was looking at her, in the weight of what was unsaid. You need to transform, Kade said. Voluntarily, with help. With me. Once you're transformed, once you're bonded to my pack, my father's claims on you diminish significantly. Pack law is older than human law, and it's ironclad. A member of my pack is under my protection. And what do you get out of this? Elena asked. Kade didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was very quiet. A mate. Biologically, when a werewolf reaches alpha status, they develop an instinct toward a specific person. Someone whose genetics complement their own. My father sensed your bloodline, which is why he wanted you. But I sensed it too. The pack will accept you as Luna, as my mate, if I claim you. And once you're mated to me, once you're transformed, he can't touch you. So you want to use me? Elena said. Yes, Kade said, and the honesty was shocking. I do. I'm using you to stop my father's program. I'm using you to protect the rest of his test subjects. And yes, part of me is using you because the alternative, watching him break you, transform you through pain, force you into something he controls, that's unacceptable to me. Even setting aside the mate bond, that's unacceptable. Elena held Lily tighter. She looked at her daughter's face, at the intelligence there, the potential, the future that Elena was supposed to protect. What will happen to me? She asked. If I transform, it will hurt, Kade said bluntly. The change is excruciating the first time, but you'll survive it. And afterward, you'll be stronger than you've ever been. Faster. You'll be able to access a kind of magic you didn't know existed. You'll be bonded to the pack. You'll feel their emotions, their presence, like a second heartbeat. And you'll be free from my father's reach. And if I refuse, then he comes for Lily. Probably within a week. Elena looked between Kade and her daughter. She thought about the file with Subject 37 written on it. She thought about the cruelty in Marcus Blackwood's eyes. She thought about a world where her daughter might be forced into something terrible, where Elena would be helpless to stop it. When? She asked. Tomorrow night, Kade said. At the full moon, when the transformation is easiest. The pack will gather. I'll guide you through the shift. And afterward, you'll be one of us. And the mating contract? Elena asked carefully. This bond, can it be broken? Something flickered across Kade's face. Yes. After 1 year, if both parties agree. If you want freedom after that, I'll give it to you. A year. Elena looked at Lily and made a choice born of desperation and survival. The same way she'd made every choice for the past 7 years. Okay, she said. I'll do it. I'll transform. Lily looked up at her. Mommy. Elena kissed her daughter's forehead. It's going to be okay, baby. I promise. She had no idea if that was true. She had no idea that tomorrow night, she would discover she was capable of more than she ever imagined. That she would become something between human and beast, something powerful and wild. That she would discover, in the agony of transformation, that she'd been asleep her whole life. She didn't know that Kade Blackwood was about to become the most important person in her existence, for reasons that had nothing to do with pack bonds or mating contracts. She only knew in that moment that she would do anything for Lily, even transform into something unrecognizable, even trust a man she'd known for an hour. even surrender to a destiny she didn't understand. "We'll begin tomorrow," Kade said, and left them alone. Oh, listener, do you feel it? The shift beginning beneath the surface? Elena is standing at the precipice of everything she's ever known, about to step into a world where moonlight means transformation, where strength flows from a place she never knew existed. In shadows deep and silence broken, desperate words have now been spoken. A mother's choice, a bond made fast. Tomorrow's change will hold her fast. Will she survive what's coming? Will her body withstand the agony of the shift? And what of this mysterious Alpha? Is his protection genuine, or is there a darker purpose beneath those brooding eyes? The moon will rise, the pack will call, and Elena will stand ready to give her all. Subscribe now, dear heart, so you won't miss the moment when a woman finds her truest bliss. Will trust hold firm, or will it break? What price will Elena's daughter make? Stay curious. Stay hungry. Because Chapter 3 will shatter everything you thought you knew about Elena's strength. Chapter 3. The clearing was ancient. Elena could feel it in her bones. Not through any magical sense, but through something primal in her hindbrain that recognized sacred ground. The full moon hung overhead like a pearl, impossibly bright, casting everything in silver and shadow. The pack had gathered in concentric circles, maybe 50 people, all watching her with eyes that held something between hunger and welcome. Kade stood before her in clothes that he peeled off with casual efficiency. Elena tried not to look. She tried to keep her attention on the ritual, on the words Kade was speaking in a language that sounded like wind through trees. "Are you ready?" Kade asked, suddenly naked and somehow less vulnerable than he'd been in the suit in his office. "No," Elena said, but she was already pulling off her clothes. Someone, the auburn-haired woman named Sophie, had given her a robe before they drove to the clearing. She shrugged it off now. "It will hurt," Kade said, and there was apology in his voice. "There's no way around it. The pain is part of the transformation. Your body is reorganizing itself at a cellular level. But I'll be with you. Let me in. Let the pack in. We can carry some of it for you." "How?" Elena asked. "You'll understand when it starts." It started with pressure. Elena dropped to her knees as something shifted inside her chest, something fundamental reorganizing. She felt bones begin to lengthen, felt her spine arch, felt something wild and foreign awakening in the depths of her cells. Then came the pain. It wasn't like any pain she'd experienced, not labor, not injury, not illness. It was the pain of becoming, the agony of your body turning into something else. Elena heard herself screaming, heard it echoing across the clearing, and she didn't recognize her own voice. "Let me in," a voice said in her mind. Kade's voice. "Elena, let me in." She didn't know how to do it, so she just stopped fighting. She opened something inside herself that she didn't know existed, and suddenly she felt others. Dozens of presences, of minds, of hearts, all supporting her, all carrying the weight of the transformation alongside her. The pain didn't stop, but it became bearable. More than bearable. She became aware of it not as something happening to her, but something she was doing, something her body was choosing, and that awareness transformed the experience. Elena's bones cracked and reformed. Her face elongated. Her nails became claws. Her skin became fur, thick and silver, shot through with threads of dark brown. She gasped for breath and felt her lungs expand, larger, more efficient. She felt her heart restructure itself, become something more powerful. And then she was on 4 legs, and her perceptions had fundamentally shifted. The world was different. Smells told her stories. She could trace the path of every person present, could smell the night air carrying secrets, could taste copper and wild herbs on her tongue. Sounds resolved into individual notes instead of cacophony. Colors became slightly more muted, but distances became somehow more comprehensible. And beneath it all, the presence of the pack in her mind felt like music, like home, like something fundamental she'd been missing her entire life. Elena the wolf looked down at her silver paws and felt wonder bloom inside her chest. She looked up at the moon and felt something like recognition. "Welcome, Luna," Kade's mind said, and suddenly there was a large black wolf beside her. His presence in her consciousness was overwhelming. Not invasive, but so complete, so present, that she felt like she was touching him from the inside. She felt his strength, his certainty, his complicated tangle of apology and protection. "How?" Elena tried to say, and was startled when the thought formed in the mind space they all shared. "Your pack now," Sophie's voice said. The auburn-haired woman, except she was silver and copper as a wolf, moving with grace through the clearing. You're bonded to all of us. Elena understood then, in a way that no explanation could have made clear. She was connected to these people. These wolves, in a way that transcended language or appearance or social construct. She could feel Sophie's joy, feel Kade's protective ferocity, feel the pack's welcome like warm water. It was invasive and terrifying, and the most profound comfort she'd ever experienced. Your daughter, Kade's mind said, and directed her attention across the clearing. Lily was there, and she was transforming too, except her transformation was nothing like Elena's. Where Elena's had been agony, Lily's seemed almost natural. Her small human form shifted smoothly, painlessly, into an even smaller wolf pup, silver like her mother, her eyes remaining the same green even in this new form. Elena ran, and the running was freedom. She ran faster than she'd ever moved in her life, and Lily came tumbling toward her, and they collided in a tangle of silver and joy. Mommy! Lily's mind voice was delighted, untouched by the trauma Elena had experienced. Look what I can do. Elena nuzzled her daughter, breathing in her scent, confirming that Lily was really here, really safe, really transformed and alive. The pack howled, one collective voice pouring out into the night sky. Elena added her voice to theirs, and the sound was pure magic, pure joy, pure belonging. She'd been alone her entire life, and now she wasn't. She was bonded to a family that wanted her, that needed her, that welcomed her without condition. The celebration continued through the night. Hunting, running, dancing in their new bodies, exploring the edges of strength they'd never accessed before. Lily chased rabbits and discovered she was fast enough to catch them. Kade stayed close, and Elena could feel his protective attention like a hand on her back. As dawn approached, the wolves began to drift back to the clearing. Elena felt the reversal beginning, the transformation back to human form. This time it didn't hurt. This time it felt like coming home in a different way, like remembering who they'd been before the night had made them more. They stood in the clearing in the gray light of dawn, hundreds of years old in experience, but moments old in understanding. And Elena could barely comprehend the woman she'd been 24 hours ago. That woman had been desperate and exhausted and half alive. This woman, this Luna, had claws and fangs and the strength of 50 humans in her bones. This woman was bonded to a pack, to a purpose, to a man who was looking at her with something like awe in his dark eyes. How do you feel? Kade asked. Elena looked at her hands and saw them tremble slightly. She looked at her daughter, wrapped in a blanket and half asleep, completely unafraid. Alive, Elena said. I feel alive. Kade stepped closer, and the pack faded back slightly, giving them space. I meant what I said. You're truly one of us now, and I will protect you and Lily with everything I am. Elena believed him. But as they walked back to the cars, as Kade held Lily and Elena walked beside him, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, something beyond biology and transformation. She didn't know that Kade was already breaking his own rules. That alpha werewolves didn't bond emotionally with their mates. They bonded pragmatically, for genetic survival. That Kade, who had planned to use Elena and protect her clinically, was already falling into something that looked far too much like love. She only knew that when he looked at her, she felt less alone than she'd ever been in her life. And that terrified her more than the transformation ever could. Chapter 4. The attack came 3 days later. Elena was in the compound's training room, learning from Sophie how to access her wolf form without the full moon's help, when alarms began screaming through the stone walls. Her body responded before her mind caught up, muscles tensing, canines extending, eyes shifting to that wolf gold. Stay with Lily, Kade's command thundered through the pack bond, and then the warriors were moving. Elena found Lily in the safe room, reinforced steel and warded with magic she didn't understand. Her daughter looked up from the coloring book a pack member had given her, curious rather than frightened. What's happening? Lily asked. Just a drill, baby. Elena lied smoothly and hated herself for it. But Lily didn't push. She'd learned early not to ask too many questions. The battle outside was vicious. Elena could hear it through the walls. The sound of bodies colliding, of snarling, of inhuman shrieks that made her blood freeze. Marcus Blackwood had sent his forces, transformed werewolves, all of them, which meant they were more powerful than Elena, than Lily, than most of the pack except the senior warriors. Elena spent the next 2 hours with her teeth clenched, feeling the combat through the pack bond. She felt pain spike through Sophie's shoulder, felt it shared across the pack, distributed so no single person bore the full weight. She felt warriors she'd met once fall into unconsciousness, their minds dimming in the collective consciousness. She felt Kade's fury like a lightning strike, felt him fighting with everything he had. When the silence came, it was abrupt. "Report," Kade's voice commanded. One by one, the warriors reported. 2 dead. 7 seriously injured. At least twice that many of Marcus's forces eliminated. "We're falling back," Kade ordered. "Medical team to the casualties. Perimeter fortified. No one leaves the compound." The door to the safe room opened. Kade stood there in human form, bleeding from multiple wounds. His eyes were feral, furious, and wholly focused on Elena. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No," Elena said. "Kade, what just?" "He's accelerating," Kade said, his jaw tight. "My father is moving faster than I anticipated. He's not going to give us time to prepare. He's going to come at us until one of us is dead." Over the next week, Elena learned the landscape of pack politics in ways that made her head spin. Kade gathered the senior members. Pack Council, they called themselves, and Elena was shocked to be included. She stood beside Kade as warriors twice her age in human years discussed strategy, discussed bloodlines, discussed magical theory she barely understood. And she realized, with a jolt, that they weren't dismissing her. They were listening to her. "Subject 37 is the key," one of the council members, a scarred woman named Mara, said. "Your father will keep coming because he wants Lily's genetic material. If we protect her, we don't hide behind our young," Elena said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "We fight." Kade's hand found the small of her back. It was a gesture of support, she realized. A public declaration of solidarity. "Elena's right," Sophie said. "Running is just delaying. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Kade, we need to know what your father's research has achieved." The gathered pack all looked at Kade. Elena felt the weight of their attention through the pack bond and realized something that made her breath catch. They looked to him, but they also looked to her. Luna. Not by title alone, but by acceptance. "I have resources," Kade said slowly. "Ways of accessing my father's facilities I've held in reserve. But they'd require us to split the pack. Go on the offensive. And that means leaving the compound partially undefended." "Then we do it," Elena said. Kade looked at her. "Elena, you said my family's genetics could prove that voluntary awakening is possible. You said that proof is what my father wants. So we use that." Elena was thinking out loud, pulling threads of strategy from instinct and desperation. "We gather intelligence. We understand the full scope of what he's doing. And then we end it." The council members exchanged glances. Elena felt something shift in the pack bond. Approval, respect, something deeper. That night, after the meeting dispersed, Kade found Elena on the compound's balcony. The forest stretched out below them, dark and mysterious. "You know what you asked for," Kade said quietly. "A direct confrontation with my father is extremely dangerous. And if we fail—" "We don't fail," Elena said, with a certainty she didn't feel. "Because the alternative is always running, and I'm tired of running." Kade stepped closer. In the moonlight, he looked haunted. "There's something you should know. Something I should have told you before I pushed you into any of this." Elena turned to face him. "When I was 17, Kade said, his voice rough, "my father convinced me that what he was doing was necessary. Evolution. Progress. I helped him. Elena, I participated in early experiments. I watched people suffer, and I called it science. And I didn't question it until—" He stopped. "Until I couldn't anymore." Elena saw the guilt in his face, felt it radiating through the pack bond like an old wound that had never fully healed. "What changed?" she asked. "I realized I had a choice," Kade said, "that I could choose something different. But there were already victims, already people hurt by the program. And I realized I'd never be able to undo that, but I could spend the rest of my life trying to stop it." "Is that why you wanted to use me?" Elena asked. "To stop your father?" "Partly," Kade said. "But Elena, I need to be honest with you about something else." He stepped closer, and his hand came up to cup her face. Elena's breath caught. "I shouldn't feel this way about you," Kade said quietly. "Alphas don't get to have feelings for their mates. We get duty, we get genetic compatibility, we get pack cohesion. But I'm looking at you, and I'm feeling something that has nothing to do with duty and everything to do with you specifically. The way you protect Lily. The way you faced everything I've thrown at you with courage. The way you challenged the council. You're not pack bond. This is something else. He leaned in, and Elena froze, every instinct telling her to move closer. Then his mouth was on hers, and it felt like falling, like recognition, like something coming home. The kiss tasted like promise and apology. It tasted like the beginning of something that terrified Elena to her core. Because you couldn't trust someone, couldn't let yourself fall, and then have them disappear. The world was full of people who left. She'd built her entire life around that expectation. When they broke apart, Kade's forehead rested against hers. I don't want to hurt you. Then don't, Elena said, and meant it with everything in her. I'll try, Kade said. But Elena, there's no guarantee. Tomorrow we start the offensive. Tomorrow could be the day everything falls apart. Or, Elena said, it could be the day we finally win. She didn't know that the days ahead would test that belief beyond anything she could imagine. That she would watch people die. That she would discover her own capacity for violence. That she would learn that winning sometimes meant sacrificing more than you thought you could bear. But for tonight, she let herself believe in possibility. She let herself hold on to the man in front of her and imagine a future where they both survived, where Lily was safe, where the choices they'd made led somewhere worth going. In the morning, everything would begin to change again. But for tonight, there was just this connection pack, and a love that had been born in desperation and might, against all odds, become something real. Chapter 5. The facility was underground. Elena descended with 24 warriors, Kade at the lead, moving through passages that felt like the veins of something monstrous. The compound's records had shown 3 satellite locations where Marcus's experiments had been documented, but this was the heart. This was where it all started. The holding cells made Elena want to vomit. Rows of them, concrete floors, bars that glowed with magical wards. Inside, some were empty and marked with dried blood. Others held people. Humans and half-transformed, all of them showing signs of trauma, of pain endured and survived. How many? Elena asked Kade, her voice small. Hundreds, he said, and the guilt in his voice was a tangible thing. Maybe more. My father has been doing this for 20 years. Longer, maybe. I wasn't paying attention because I didn't want to know. They moved deeper into the facility. Kade led them to a laboratory, a pristine room filled with equipment, computers, files. Sophie began downloading information while warriors moved through, documenting everything, photographing records. And then they found the personal files. Kade's face went pale as he read them. What? Elena asked, stepping closer. His notes, Kade said. His voice was hollow. He didn't start the program arbitrarily. Elena, he started it because my mother died during a voluntary transformation. She was trying to access magic she'd been told was dormant in her bloodline. He wanted to prove the bloodline was wrong, that all transformations were dangerous. To prove that my mother's death wasn't a fluke, but an inevitability. Elena's heart clenched. Oh, Kade. And when she died, Kade continued, his eyes scanning the pages with growing horror. Instead of accepting her death, instead of grieving, he decided he'd make sure her death meant something. He'd force the transformation. He'd prove he could do what nature couldn't, create safe awakenings. Except the experiments kept failing, because he was approaching it with cruelty and force when he should have been approaching it with consent and care. Where is all this documented? Elena asked. Here, Kade said, holding up a drive. It's all here. Every test subject, every failed experiment, every person who died. And my father's notes explaining why he did it. The justification. The madness. A warrior approached. A young man with ice-blue eyes. Sir, he said, we have medical records for subject 37 and her daughter. Your father has been tracking them since before the mother's second employment at the hotel. Elena felt sick. They'd been marked from the beginning. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't discovery. This was a hunt that had been happening behind the scenes for months. Kade's hand found hers. We need to move. My father will know we're here soon. They got the people out, or most of them. Some had been transformed too violently, their minds broken by the process. They would need time to heal, if they could heal at all. The thought of it filled Elena with a rage that was almost predatory. We're leaving, Kade commanded through the pack bond, and warriors began moving. The alarm system triggered as they reached the exit. Red lights flooded the underground passages, and Elena heard the sound of barriers slamming down. Go! Kade shouted. Get the people topside. Elena ran with Sophie and 24 others, half of them supporting survivors who couldn't walk on their own. Behind them, she felt the pack bond spike with danger. Kade and the remaining warriors were holding the line, buying them time. They made it to the surface. They made it to the cars. And then Kade emerged from the facility, bleeding but alive, and the last of the pack followed. They drove in silence, sirens beginning to wail in the distance. The facility was under Marcus's control, but the authorities would come, and the authorities couldn't know that werewolves existed. We need to move faster, Mara said grimly. Your father will mobilize everything he has. This was a declaration of war. Back at the compound, after the survivors had been settled and medical teams had begun treating the most serious injuries, Kade took Elena to his private rooms. The space was beautiful, stone and dark wood, a fireplace, windows overlooking the forest. Kade moved to the window, staring out into the dark, and Elena could feel the turmoil in him through the pack bond. Anger, guilt, determination, fear. My father will come for us, Kade said quietly. Probably within days. And when he does, it won't be with a small force. He'll bring everything. Then we'll be ready, Elena said. Will we? Kade turned to face her, and his expression was raw. Elena, I've been lying to myself about what this is. I told myself I could keep this professional, that I could use you and protect you, and it would all be clean, logical, necessary. But it's not anymore. I'm not sure it ever was. He crossed the space between them. I brought you into this because I needed you. And yes, because I sensed the mate bond. But I'm asking you now, knowing everything you know, knowing that this could very well be fatal. Do you want to stay? Not because of the bond. Not because I'm asking. But because you choose to. Elena thought about the desperate woman she'd been a week ago. She thought about Lily, safe and strong and transformed. She thought about the people in those cells, broken and suffering. I'm staying, Elena said. Not because of magic, not because of bonds. I'm staying because this matters. Because Lily matters. Because you matter. Something cracked open in Kade's chest. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm sorry that I'm asking you to fight in a war that isn't yours. It's my war now, Elena said. Because you're my pack. Because Lily is pack. Because I refuse to let what happened to those people happen to anyone else. And in that moment, Kade's hand came up to the back of her neck, gentle and reverent, and he tilted her face up to his. The kiss was deeper than before, fuller of intention. It tasted like apology and commitment, and the kind of love that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with choice. Then we do this together, Kade said against her mouth. And we survive it together. But even as he said it, they both knew that survival wasn't guaranteed. That some of them might not make it through what was coming. That the choices they'd made had set them on a path that could only end in confrontation, and confrontation could mean death. In the morning, the warriors would begin fortifying the compound. In 3 days, Marcus Blackwood would arrive with everything he had, determined to destroy his son and reclaim what he saw as stolen property in Elena and Lily. But for tonight, there was just this. 2 people holding each other in the dark, drawing strength from connection, preparing for a war they might not survive. Chapter 6. Training began before dawn. Elena had never been naturally athletic. Her life before the transformation had been about survival, not strength. But survival, it turned out, had been excellent preparation for becoming a warrior. Every hardship, every night working double shifts, every moment she'd pushed through exhaustion for Lily, it had built a kind of mental toughness that translated into physical capability. Mara taught her combat. The scarred warrior took no mercy, throwing Elena to the ground repeatedly until she learned to fall, to roll, to use her new strength without overextending. Every bruise that bloomed on Elena's skin felt like education. Werewolf strength is 50% muscle, 50% belief, Mara said, helping Elena up after a particularly brutal takedown. If you believe you can move faster, you do. If you believe you can survive the hit, you do. Half of fighting is psychology. Sophie taught her magic. How to feel the energy moving through the pack bond. How to channel it into her own body. How to create wards that glowed faintly under her skin. Magic is intention, Sophie explained, showing Elena how to weave protective barriers around the compound. You decide what you want to happen, and you make it happen. The power is already in you. It's just about learning to access it. Kade taught her strategy. in a war room deep in the compound, surrounded by maps and photographs of Marcus's known facilities. Kade showed Elena how to think like someone trying to destroy an enemy. "My father is strategic," he said, pointing out positions on a map. "He won't attack directly if he can help it. He'll try to break our morale first. He'll target the civilians, the people who aren't combat trained. He'll try to separate us. So we protect the civilians differently," Elena said, already thinking ahead. "We put non-combatants and children in the deepest part of the compound. We station guards with them. We make the compound impossible to breach." Kade looked at her with something like awe. "You think like an alpha." "I think like a mother," Elena corrected. "Lily is here. That means the compound is worth defending with everything I have." The night before the attack was supposed to come, Kade found Elena in the library, reading files on Marcus's research. She was trying to understand her enemy, trying to predict his next move. "You should rest," Kade said, settling beside her. "I should be ready," Elena countered. But she leaned into him anyway, letting his presence calm her racing mind. "Tell me about your mother," Kade said suddenly. Elena looked at him, surprised. But something about the question felt important, like he was asking for something more than information. "She was afraid," Elena said slowly. "I remember that more than anything else. She was afraid of something she couldn't name. She'd wake up from nightmares. She'd have these moments where she'd look at me like I was something monstrous, and then she'd remember that she was the monster, and it would break her. And then one day she just left. She left a note saying she was sorry and that she loved me, but she couldn't stay." Elena had spent 15 years angry at her mother for that abandonment. Now she wondered if her mother had simply been running from her own nature, from the werewolf genetics she couldn't control, didn't understand. "She was running from the same thing I was trying to control," Kade said quietly. "The inheritance, the duty, the fact that being what we are comes with cost." "Did your father ever run?" Elena asked. "No," Kade said. "He tried to master it instead. He tried to control the transformation, control the bloodlines, control everything. And that's when he became dangerous." Elena sat up, facing him. "You're not like him. You know that, right? You're nothing like him." "I participated in his experiments," Kade said. "How do I come back from that?" "By doing everything the opposite way," Elena said firmly. "By choosing differently every single day. By protecting the people he tried to hurt. By accepting that you made mistakes, and then making sure you don't make them again." Kade reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple," Elena said. "Hard, but simple. You just have to keep choosing." That night, they didn't sleep. They lay together in Kade's bed, and Elena felt the reality of what was coming settle into her bones. Tomorrow, people would die. People she'd come to care about would fall. She might die. Kade might die. And the only thing she could do about it was choose, again and again, to stand firm. When dawn broke, the attack came exactly as Kade had predicted. Marcus Blackwood didn't assault the gates. He sent men to the perimeter, men who set fires that burned through the forest, creating a wall of flame that forced the compound to go into lockdown. He was trying to flush them out, to force them into the open where his numbers would dominate. But Kade had anticipated this. Barriers went up, protective wards that Sophie and Elena had spent all night reinforcing. The fires died at the edge of the property, unable to advance further. Then the warriors came. They came from multiple directions, trying to overwhelm the defenses through sheer force. Elena found herself running toward the sounds of combat, her wolf form emerging without full transformation. A hybrid state that let her think like a human and fight like a beast. Claws extended. She dove toward one of Marcus's warriors and felt her teeth close around flesh. Pain answered her, a clawed hand raking across her shoulder. But the pack bond distributed the damage, and she kept fighting. Around her, warriors moved in coordinated patterns. The pack had trained for this, had fought together dozens of times. They moved like a single organism, covering each other's weak points, amplifying each other's strength. Elena discovered she had an instinct for combat that surprised her. She'd never been a fighter, and yet something about the pack bond and the transformation opened parts of her brain that had always been tactical, always been strategic. She understood positioning. She understood how to use an opponent's strength against them. A warrior came at her, larger than she was older. Elena sidestepped, felt his momentum carry him past her, and followed up with a strike that sent him to his knees. He was down but not dead. She didn't want them dead. They were victims of Marcus's programming, most of them. They were slaves to his will, just like she might have been. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 12 of the compound's warriors were unconscious or seriously injured. Marcus's forces had suffered 40% casualties. But he hadn't broken through. The compound had held. Kade pulled Elena into his arms as the fighting wound down, checking her for serious injuries. There was blood, some his, some hers, some belonging to enemies, but nothing that would prevent her from continuing. "He'll come again," Elena said, her breath coming hard. "He'll keep coming until one of us is dead." "Yes," Kade said grimly, "which is why we're not waiting for the next attack. Tomorrow we march on his facility. Tomorrow we end this." And as Elena felt the resolve settle through the pack bond, the determination, the exhaustion, the commitment to finish what had been started, she understood that nothing in her life would ever be the same. She was pack, yes. She was bonded, yes. But more than that, she was transformed into someone who could fight, who could lead, who could face her fears and move through them. Tomorrow would determine if that was enough. Chapter 7. The tactical decision was made in hours. Attack at dawn, when circadian rhythms made Marcus's warriors slower. Move hard and fast before he could reorganize. Hit him before he hit them again. Elena spent the night with Lily, ensuring her daughter understood that what was coming might mean Elena didn't come back. It was the conversation no parent should have to have with a 7-year-old, but honesty seemed important. "You have to be brave," Elena told her daughter, holding her close in the pre-dawn darkness. "Braver than you've ever been. Because Sophie and Mara and all the pack, they're going to keep you safe while I go help stop the bad man. Will you come back?" Lily asked, her young voice small. Elena couldn't promise. She wouldn't lie to her daughter. "I'm going to try with everything I have," she said. "And if I don't, you know that I love you more than anything in the world, and nothing, not anything, will ever change that." Lily cried then, and Elena held her while the tears fell, feeling her daughter's pain like a spike through her own heart. "I love you, Mommy," Lily said. "I love you too, baby girl. So much." By the time they left Lily with the caregivers in the fortified part of the compound, Elena had transformed that grief into fury. Marcus had taken enough from her. He'd taken her safety, her peace, her daughter's childhood. No more. Today it stopped. Kade had gathered the remaining warriors, maybe 60 of them, all told. Against Marcus's estimated force of 120, they were outmatched in numbers. But they had strategy, they had unity, and they had Kade and Elena. "We move in waves," Kade explained in the pre-dawn dark, before the warriors transformed. "First wave goes for the perimeter, disables the guards, and creates a breach. Second wave moves to the facility entrance. Third wave, that's us, we go for my father." He looked at Elena as he said it, and she understood what he was asking. Was she ready to do this? Was she ready to face Marcus Blackwood directly? Elena nodded. She was ready. The first wave moved at dawn, and the slaughter began. Elena felt it through the pack bond. The impact of 40 warriors moving fast and coordinated against an unprepared enemy. Marcus's forces had been expecting another defensive battle, not an offensive. They scattered, caught off guard. The second wave secured the facility entrance and breached the outer defenses. Elena moved with the third wave, with Kade and the most experienced warriors. They poured into the facility like water through a broken dam. The interior was a nightmare. Bodies, some human, some half-transformed, were scattered throughout. Combat raged in corridors and laboratories. Elena moved through it all, following Kade deeper, always deeper, toward the heart of the facility. They found Marcus in his primary laboratory. He was standing over a transformation chamber, a reinforced tank filled with something that looked like liquid silver. "Kade," he said, turning to face his son. "How predictable. And you brought your little mate. I was hoping you would." Marcus Blackwood looked like an older version of Kade, but where his son had depth, Marcus had only flatness. He was handsome in a way that was cold, untouchable. His eyes held no warmth, only calculation. "It ends today," Kade said. "Does it?" Marcus smiled. "Is that what you tell yourself? That you can win this? That your little band of rebels can defeat me?" He gestured, and the liquid in the chamber began to glow. "I've been upgrading my own genetics for years, Kade. I'm not the man you remember from childhood. I'm something better, something more." He moved. It was like watching light travel. One moment Marcus was across the room. The next he was directly in front of Kade, and Kade was sliding backward from the force of the impact. Elena watched her mate crash into a wall and felt rage crystallize in her chest. She transformed mid-run, her human form flowing into wolf form without pause, and she launched herself at Marcus. He caught her easily, threw her across the room like she weighed nothing. She crashed into equipment, felt something crack inside her ribs, and kept moving. Because that was the lesson the transformation had taught her. Pain could be endured, managed, moved through. Kade was back on his feet, engaging his father directly. Elena saw the skill in Kade, the technical proficiency, the years of training. But Marcus was stronger, faster, and he'd been upgrading his own biology. He was a weapon pointed at everything Kade loved. Elena found her way back into the fight, learning on the fly how to work in concert with Kade, how to attack from angles Marcus wasn't expecting. Together, they drove him back. Together, they began to win. But then Marcus's hand closed around Elena's throat, and the world shifted. He lifted her off the ground with one hand, cutting off her air, and held her where Kade could see. "Let me show you what real power is, son." Elena felt magic beginning to flow into her, forced, invasive, agonizing. Marcus was trying to force a transformation while she was already partially transformed. The pain was indescribable. She felt her body beginning to tear itself apart, felt her cells rebelling against the forced change. And then, Lily's voice pierced through the pain. No, her daughter screamed through the pack bond, and somehow, impossibly, Lily was there in the laboratory, transformed but too small to be a threat, and she was fighting. She was biting at Marcus's legs, drawing blood, her green eyes blazing with fury. The distraction was enough. Kade moved. He transformed fully, his human body flowing into an enormous black wolf, and he hit his father with the full weight of his body and his magic combined. Marcus dropped Elena and staggered back. Elena fell to the ground, gasping for air, and she heard Kade's voice in the pack bond. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let it get this far. Just win," Elena sent back. "Just survive." The final fight between Kade and Marcus was something Elena would carry in her memory forever. They fought as wolves, then shifted back to human, then shifted again. Magic crackled through the air. The laboratory began to collapse around them as their combat damaged the structural integrity. And then Kade got the upper hand. He had his father pinned, his teeth at Marcus's throat, and he could have killed him. Elena saw the moment Kade could have ended it, seen the moment his jaws tightened. And then he hesitated. "Kill him," Elena found herself saying. "Kade, he'll never stop. Kill him." But Kade looked back at her, and she saw something in his expression, something broken and hopeful and human. "No," Kade said. He transformed back to human form, and blood covered his skin, and he was shaking. "He's my father, and if I become him, if I kill him in cold blood, then I become what I'm fighting against." He bound Marcus with magic instead. He stripped his father's power, a brutal thing that made Marcus scream, a punishment that left him human, powerless, broken in a different way. And then Kade ordered his father exiled, escorted away from pack lands, stripped of everything, left with nothing. It was mercy. It was also the cruelest punishment imaginable. To a man whose entire identity was built on power, to take everything and leave him empty. As they stumbled out of the facility, as the warriors began to move the survivors to safety, Elena pulled Lily close and felt tears streaming down her face. They'd won. They'd survived. And Kade, in winning, had chosen something other than revenge. That was the moment Elena knew she loved him completely. Chapter 8. The compound transformed into a hospital. Medical teams worked around the clock, treating the wounded from both the attack and the battle at the facility. Some survived. Some didn't. Elena moved through the chaos, helping where she could, using her new strength to carry the injured to proper medical care. But the real challenge came during the council meeting. They gathered 3 days after the battle, when the immediate crisis had passed but the body count was still being tallied. Kade sat at the head of the table, and Elena stood beside him. A position that still felt strange, standing as an equal among warriors who'd been with the pack for decades. "We need to address the refugees," Mara said, gesturing to the files before her. "We rescued approximately 137 people from Marcus's facilities. All of them need support, medical care, housing. Our resources are limited." "They're packed now," one of the council members, an older man named Thorne, said. "They need sanctuary. Sanctuary costs resources we don't have," another council member countered. We've got 68 injured warriors. We're going to lose at least 8 more before the infections clear. We can't afford to support that many new members. Elena felt Kade tense beside her. She could sense his emotions through the pack bond. The weight of leadership, the guilt of survivors, the desire to do right by people who'd suffered in his father's program. We find the resources, Kade said flatly. You're thinking with your heart instead of your head, Thorne said. That's weakness. No, Elena heard herself say. That's strength. Everyone turned to look at her. These people, Elena continued, surprised at how steady her voice was, were victims of cruelty. They survived. And you want to turn them away? You want to tell them that safety has a price too high to pay? That's not pack. That's not anything worth protecting. Luna, Thorne said, and his tone was not entirely respectful. You've been pack for a week. You don't understand the logistics. I understand that I was a single mother, desperate and afraid, working 2 jobs and barely surviving, Elena said, standing firm. And Kade gave me sanctuary when he could have turned me away. He gave me community when I had nothing. That's what pack is. Not survival of the strongest, but survival because we choose to stand together. Sophie smiled slightly from her seat. Mara nodded. We can restructure our operations, Sophie said. Take some of the profit from the legitimate businesses and redirect it to support refugees. The pharmaceutical company, the tech firm, they can absorb some of the cost if we adjust overhead. One by one, the council members began problem solving, and Elena realized that they'd been waiting for permission from their alpha to do the right thing. Kade had been carrying the weight of it alone until Elena spoke up. After the meeting ended, Kade caught her hand. You didn't have to do that, he said. You could have stayed silent. I know, Elena said. I chose not to. You've been so focused on being what your father wasn't that you weren't allowing yourself to be who you actually are. And who is that? Kade asked. Someone who cares about people, Elena said. Someone who has a conscience. Someone who's willing to sacrifice to protect others. That's not weakness, Kade. That's the thing that makes you worthy of being alpha. The week after the council meeting, something shifted in the compound. The refugees were integrated into the pack community. Housing was created, jobs were assigned. Kade and Elena established programs to help people who'd been through forced transformation to heal psychologically. Therapy, counseling, community support. And one evening, as Elena was helping a young woman, Sarah, a survivor who'd been subject 22 in her father's files, settle into a new room, Sarah grabbed her hand. Thank you, Sarah said, for fighting for us, for choosing to care. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. You deserve to be chosen. That night, she found Kade on the compound's eastern tower, looking out over the forest. I've been thinking about the mating contract, Kade said without preamble. Elena's stomach tightened. They had 6 months left on their 1-year agreement. She'd been avoiding thinking about it, about what would happen when the magical bond expired. When the year is up, Kade continued, I'm going to ask you to renew the contract. But I want to be clear. Not because of magic, not because of the pack bond, not because of duty. I'm going to ask because I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life standing beside you. Elena stepped closer. That's not how you asked me the first time. I know, Kade said. The first time, I was using you. This time, I'm asking if you'd be willing to choose me. Even if the magic goes away. Even if the pack bond snaps. Even if there's no connection between us except what we build ourselves. Yes, Elena said, and it was easy. It was the easiest thing she'd ever said. Kade pulled her close, and they stood together on the tower, looking out at a forest they'd fought to protect, at a compound full of people they'd chosen to save, at a future that seemed possible for the first time in Elena's life. I can't promise it won't be hard, Kade said. I know, Elena replied, but we'll be hard together. And in that moment, Elena understood something fundamental. Love wasn't about magic or destiny or predetermined bonds. Love was about showing up, day after day, and choosing someone. Love was about looking at someone's worst parts and deciding to help them heal instead of turning away. Love was about sacrifice not because you had to, but because you wanted to. That was the real power. That was the real transformation. Not becoming a werewolf. That was just the beginning. Oh, what a journey it's been, listener. Kade has fallen. Marcus has been exiled. The compound is full of hope. And yet, the victory won, the battle's done, but love's true test has just begun, for bonds of magic fade with time, and choices true are most sublime. 1 year. That's all the magic will hold them together. 1 year for Elena to decide. Does she stay because of destiny, or does she stay because she chooses? Will love survive when spells release? Will freedom find them, bring them peace? Subscribe to follow their true test, when hearts must choose what serves them best. Chapters 11 and 12 hold secrets that will reshape everything. A proposal you won't expect. A moment of choosing that will define what love truly means. The moonlit magic, it will fade, but can their chosen love be swayed? Stay curious, beloved listener, stay, for the final choice comes your way. Chapter 9. The Pack Council convened for the official challenge. Kade stood in the central clearing, and one by one, each senior warrior came before him to confirm his position as Alpha. It was ceremonial, mostly, but in werewolf hierarchy, challenges were serious business. Any warrior could contest Kade's claim. Any warrior could demand a test of strength, magic, and leadership capability. Elena watched from the sidelines, Lily at her side. She felt the significance of the moment through the pack bond. This was Kade being formally recognized not just as Marcus's successor, but as his own Alpha. An Alpha chosen by the pack, not inherited. Thorn approached first. "Do you challenge?" the ceremonial master of challenges asked. "I do not," Thorn said, and he bowed to Kade. One by one, the others did the same. No one challenged. No one questioned. Except, a figure emerged from the crowd. It was one of the rescued survivors. A man named Jordan who'd been transformed against his will by Marcus. He was young, probably 25, with scars from forced awakening etched across his skin. "I challenge," Jordan said, his voice shaking slightly. The Pack Council exchanged glances. This was unusual. Jordan was new, barely recovered from his trauma. He had no standing to challenge an Alpha. "On what grounds?" the Master of Challenges asked. "On the grounds that I want to understand," Jordan said. "I want to understand if this Alpha is capable of leading us, if he's capable of protecting us. Because Kade Blackwood, his father, tortured me. Kade Blackwood's father used me like a laboratory animal. And now I'm supposed to trust this man with my life." The clearing fell silent. Elena felt Kade's uncertainty through the pack bond. He could refuse the challenge. Jordan had no real standing. But refusing would undermine the very thing he was trying to prove. That he was different from his father. That he was open to questions and challenges. "I accept," Kade said. The challenge began with Kade in human form, and Jordan shifted to wolf. It was intentionally handicapped. Kade wasn't trying to win, Elena realized. He was trying to prove something. He let Jordan drive him backward. He let Jordan land strikes that had him bleeding. He demonstrated weakness and resilience simultaneously, showing that strength didn't come from winning, but from continuing to stand even when you were knocked down. After 20 minutes, Kade shifted to wolf form and ended the contest by pinning Jordan gently, not with malice but with care. "I'm sorry," Kade said, transforming back to human. "I'm sorry for what my father did to you. I'm sorry that you were hurt in his name. And I'm sorry that you have to heal from that trauma. I can't undo what happened. But I can commit to making sure it never happens again. And I can commit to listening when you challenge me. You have my respect, Jordan. Not because you could defeat me, but because you stood up and demanded accountability." Jordan transformed back to human form, tears streaming down his face. I had to know. "I understand," Kade said. "And if you ever need to challenge again, you come find me." "Okay." Something shifted in the clearing. The pack felt it through the collective bond, a recognition that this Alpha was different. This Alpha was willing to be questioned. This Alpha was strong enough to admit fault. After the formal challenge ended, Elena found Kade standing alone at the edge of the forest. "That took incredible strength," she said softly. "It was hard," Kade admitted. "Every instinct I have is to assert dominance, to prove I'm stronger, to crush anyone who questions me. But that's my father talking. That's the toxic legacy I inherited." Elena wrapped her arms around him. "You're breaking the cycle." "I hope so," Kade said. "I'm terrified I'm going to wake up one day and realize I'm becoming him anyway." "You won't," Elena said with certainty. "Because you're aware of the possibility. Because you're choosing differently every single day. Because I'm here to call you out if you start sliding." "Promise me," Kade said. "I promise," Elena said. "Always." That night, unable to sleep, Elena found herself in the compound's archive, the place where the pack kept its histories. She read about alpha lines stretching back centuries. She read about Kade's family, about the burden of inheritance, about alphas who'd broken under the weight of it and alphas who'd transcended it. And she realized something. Kade was creating something new. He was building an alpha dynasty that wasn't based on power and dominance, but on service and choice. It was revolutionary in the werewolf world, and it terrified the older members of the pack. But it was also what they needed. By the end of the month, Kade had formally restructured the pack's hierarchy. Younger warriors were given leadership roles. Women who'd been pushed to the side were brought into positions of power. Merit and ability replaced age and tradition. Not everyone was happy about it. Thorn eventually left the pack, choosing to seek his fortune elsewhere. But many stayed, and many new people found refuge in a community that was trying to do things differently. And Elena, who'd been a desperate single mother 6 weeks ago, found herself being trained to be Kade's second-in-command. A co-leader. Someone who could make decisions and cast votes and shape the future. "You're a natural at this," Sophie said one evening as they reviewed training programs together. "I don't feel like a natural," Elena admitted. "I feel like I'm making it up as I go." "That's what leadership is," Sophie said gently. "You make decisions based on your values, and you trust that your values are sound. And yours are, Elena. You came to us from a place of desperation, and instead of hardening your heart, you stayed soft enough to care about others. That's rare. That's worth protecting." As the weeks turned into months, Elena watched Kade transform the compound from a fortress into a sanctuary. Refugees continued to arrive. People looking for community, looking for safety, looking for a place where they could heal. And the pack accepted them, welcomed them, helped them. Lily thrived. Elena's daughter was learning magic alongside younger pack members, growing stronger and more confident every day. At night, Lily would tell Elena about her day, who she'd trained with, what spells she'd learned, what friends she'd made. Elena would listen and feel the weight of her sacrifice lift a little more. This was worth it. All of it had been worth it. And Kade was becoming something remarkable. An alpha worthy of the title. An alpha that people wanted to follow, not because they had to, but because they believed in him. 8 months into the transformation, Elena found herself standing on the eastern tower again with Kade, and she understood with crystalline clarity that she didn't want a year-long trial. She wanted forever. She wanted to build this life, this future, this family with this man. She wanted to choose him. Again and again and again. Chapter 10. 1 year into Kade's leadership of the North Cascade Pack, the transformation was complete. The compound had expanded. New buildings, new facilities, new homes for the refugees who'd chosen to stay. Where Marcus had created a breeding ground for pain and manipulation, Kade had created something approaching utopia. Not perfect. Nothing populated by humans and shifters could ever be perfect, but genuinely good. Elena walked through the common areas and felt the weight of leadership settling more comfortably on her shoulders. She'd helped establish the education programs. She'd worked with the medical team to create specialized treatment for forced transformation trauma. She'd made difficult decisions about resource allocation and community care. And she'd survived every moment of it. The pack had voted to make her official co-leader. The first Luna elected by popular choice rather than appointed through mate bond. It was a revolutionary change, and it had opened doors for women throughout the werewolf world. Other packs were beginning to question their hierarchies, beginning to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the old ways didn't have to be the only ways. Lily was approaching her 8th birthday, and she was the smallest person in the compound and the most powerful. Her magic was extraordinary. Something about her unique bloodline had created capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. She could heal wounds with a touch. She could sense emotions across the pack bond with crystal clarity. She could transform faster than any werewolf Kade had ever encountered. And she was kind about it. When she used her gifts, it was always to help others. "Mommy, I did it." Lily came running toward Elena one afternoon, her green eyes blazing with achievement. "I healed Sarah's arm, the one that wasn't healing right. It's better." Elena swept her daughter into her arms, feeling pride bloom in her chest. "That's amazing, baby. I'm so proud of you. Can I help more people tomorrow?" Lily asked. "Can I go to the medical center?" "Let's talk to the doctors about what you can safely do," Elena said. "We don't want you exhausting yourself." "But it doesn't hurt," Lily protested. "It feels good. It feels like I'm fixing something broken." Elena understood. The transformation that had been forced on them had given them power, but it had also given them purpose. They weren't survivors just trying to get by. They were agents of change, people capable of transforming their world. That evening, the full pack gathered for the monthly assembly. It was a tradition Kade had established, a chance for everyone to speak, everyone to be heard, everyone to contribute to the direction of the pack. "I want to propose something," Elena said, standing before the gathering with Kade beside her. "There are a lot of humans out there who don't know about us, who don't know what it means to be part of a community that actually values them. I think we should consider establishing more outreach, not revealing our nature, but creating opportunities for humans to find sanctuary with us, to find community, to find hope." The idea sparked discussion. Some people were concerned about exposure. Others were worried about the resources it would require. But most were excited about the possibility of spreading what they'd built, of helping more people find their way to safety. Kade stood during the discussion and added his perspective. "My father believed in control through isolation. He believed that hiding was survival. We're going to try something different. We're going to build bridges instead of walls. And yes, that comes with risk. But I believe the risk is worth it." The vote passed overwhelmingly, and Elena felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They were building something that mattered, something that was actually changing the world. After the assembly, Kade pulled Elena aside. He looked nervous, which was unusual. Kade was usually confident, secure in his decisions. But there was definitely anxiety radiating off him through the pack bond. "What's wrong?" Elena asked. "Nothing's wrong," Kade said. "Everything's right, actually. And I've been waiting for the right moment to ask you something." They walked to the clearing where Elena had transformed just a year ago, the place that had changed everything. The full moon was rising, and its light made everything silver and magical. "I know we made an agreement," Kade said. 1 year of the mating contract, and then freedom to choose. And in about a month, that year is up, and I know I could ask you to renew the magical bond. I could probably convince you to stay." "You could," Elena agreed cautiously. "But I don't want to," Kade said, and he dropped to one knee. "Elena, I don't want to bind you with magic. I don't want to claim you through pack law. I want something simpler and something harder. I want to ask you, as a man who loves you more than anything in his life, if you would marry me, if you would choose me, not because of destiny or fate or magical compatibility, but because you love me too and because you want to build a life with me." Elena felt tears streaming down her face. In her old life, when she was desperate and broken, she'd never imagined a moment like this. She'd never imagined being chosen by someone who looked at her and saw value, who saw strength, who saw a partner rather than a burden. "Yes," Elena said, pulling Kade to his feet. "Yes, yes, yes. I choose you. Every single day, I choose you." They kissed under the moon, and the pack gathered. They came because they felt it through the bond, felt the joy and rightness of the moment. Sophie was there. Mara was there. Even Thorn, who'd returned to the pack after 6 months away, was there. And hundreds of others. All the people they'd saved. All the people they'd chosen to love. Kade and Elena, hand in hand, repeated vows that weren't magical but were infinitely more powerful. Vows to choose each other, to build together, to face challenges as a unit. Vows that Elena meant with every cell of her being. Lily ran forward, and Kade scooped her up, and the three of them stood together while the pack howled their approval. In the months that followed, things began to stabilize. The pack's reach expanded, but carefully. They worked with human organizations that placed refugees and foster youth, creating opportunities for people who needed safety. They didn't reveal their nature, but they created communities of care that often led to people discovering their own dormant supernatural heritage and choosing to join the pack. The forced awakening survivors continued to heal. Some left after recovery, choosing to build lives outside the pack. Others stayed, finding family in the community that had welcomed them with open arms. All of them thrived in a way Marcus's victims never had, not because of transformation, but because of choice. And Elena found herself at peace. Not a peace without challenges. There were always new problems to solve, new people to help, new conflicts to navigate. But a peace that came from knowing you were exactly where you needed to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. One evening, 6 months after her wedding, Elena stood on the eastern tower with her family. Kade held her. Lily leaned against Elena's leg, watching the sunset. And they were just there, existing together, breathing the same air. Part of a pack, yes, but also part of something simpler, a family. I was thinking, Kade said softly, about maybe having children. Not just Lily. Though she's perfect, she's amazing, but biological children. Our children. If you want that. Elena looked at her mate, at the man who'd saved her from desperation and had been saved by her in return. I would like that, she said. When the time is right. When we're ready. But yes, I want to build more life with you. Good, Kade said. Because I'm thinking about the future a lot lately. About the legacy we're creating. Not just for the pack, but for the world. I think we can do real good, Elena. I think we can change things. We already are, Elena said. Look around. This isn't the world we started in. And it wasn't. The North Cascade pack had become a beacon. Other packs were reforming their hierarchies. Humans were finding their way to sanctuaries that actually provided safety. The paranormal world was shifting, and at the center of it all was an Alpha and Luna who'd chosen love over power, community over control, and transformation over stagnation. Chapter 11. 1 year after their wedding, life had developed a rhythm that Elena had never imagined possible for someone like her. She woke beside Kade most mornings, feeling the weight of his arm across her waist, the steady rhythm of his breathing. She would shower in hot water that didn't run out. She would dress in clothes that weren't worn at the elbows. She would eat breakfast that wasn't just whatever she could afford on the clearance shelf. These simple things still felt miraculous to her. Downstairs, Lily was doing her homework with Sophie, who'd taken to tutoring the younger pack members. She was almost 9 now, tall for her age, with her mother's fierce green eyes and her father's sharp mind. Good morning, Mommy, Lily said, looking up from her math homework. Did you know that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth? I did not know that, Elena said, kissing the top of her daughter's head. That's amazing. Sophie says I can study astrophysics if I want, Lily continued, her excitement bubbling over. She says there's a whole world of knowledge out there, and I can choose whatever path I want. Elena felt warmth bloom in her chest. That was the difference, wasn't it? In her old life, Elena had always told Lily to dream small, to keep expectations low. Don't get your hopes up. Don't believe the world will give you anything. But now she could tell Lily to dream big, to reach for the stars, literally, and know that she'd have community support and resources to pursue whatever path she chose. What do you want to do? Elena asked, sitting down with coffee, real good coffee, not instant, and a pastry Sophie had baked. I want to understand how magic and science connect, Lily said carefully. Some of the older pack members have been teaching me about magical theory, but I want to know how it works at a scientific level. Is that weird? It's brilliant, Elena said. You could be the first to bridge that gap. Imagine what you could discover. The day passed in the pleasant routine they'd established. Elena checked in with the medical team about a new refugee who was struggling with transformation trauma. She worked with Mara on the training schedules for younger pack members. She helped Sophie plan next month's education program. And somewhere in the middle of the afternoon, Kade found her in the library. He looked nervous. More than nervous. He looked almost afraid. What's wrong? Elena asked, immediately concerned. Nothing's wrong, Kade said, though his body language suggested otherwise. I need to talk to you about something, and I'm more nervous about this than I was about anything else in my entire life, and I'm not entirely sure why. Elena set down the reports she'd been reviewing and gave Kade her full attention. Okay, talk. The mating contract expired a year ago, Kade said. And you chose to stay. You married me. And it's been the best year of my life, Elena. Every single day you choose me, and I still can't quite believe that's real. It's real, Elena assured him. I know, Kade said. But I've been thinking, and I want to be clear that you can absolutely say no to this, and nothing changes between us. But I want to ask something I should have asked a long time ago. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Elena's breath caught. A ring. Not the wedding band she wore, which was a simple silver circle. This was something different. A diamond that caught the light like captured starlight. Elena, Kade said, I know we're already married in the pack sense. I know you've already committed. But I want to ask you anyway, because I want there to be a moment where you get to choose this just for you. Not for pack politics or for Lily or for survival. I want there to be a moment where you say yes just because you love me. Will you marry me again? Will you do it all again, but this time with this ring, and this time knowing that we're not running from anything, we're running toward something? Elena felt tears slide down her cheeks. She'd cried more in this past year than she had in the 7 years before, and these tears were different. These tears were joy instead of despair. Yes, Elena whispered. Yes, I will marry you again. I will choose you again. I will keep choosing you. Kade slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He knew her that well. And then they were kissing, and Elena felt the moment ripple through the pack bond. Congratulations, joy, celebration. That evening, Kade announced a formal renewal of vows ceremony. It would happen at the next full moon, 1 week away. The pack would gather, and Kade and Elena would stand before them again and confirm their choice. Is this because you're worried I might leave? Elena asked Kade that night as they lay in bed. No, Kade said. It's because I want to mark the moment when I stop being afraid of losing you. It's because I want to commemorate the day when I finally accepted that this is real, and you're choosing me, and I don't have to earn that choice by constantly proving myself. You've always been worthy, Elena said gently. I know that now, Kade said. I'm starting to actually believe it. The week leading up to the ceremony was a flurry of preparation. The kitchen staff began planning a celebration feast. Sophie designed decorations for the clearing. Mara arranged for security and ensured all the distant pack members could attend. And Lily, in true 7-year-old fashion, decided she wanted to write a speech. I want to talk about how you saved each other, Lily explained to Elena as they worked through draft after draft. Like, you saved Daddy from becoming his father, and Daddy saved you from being desperate, and now you're helping save other people. So your love isn't just about you two. It's about everything you can do together. Elena felt her heart expand. That's beautiful, baby. I know, Lily said, completely confident. I'm going to make people cry. The night before the ceremony, Elena found herself unable to sleep. She stood on the eastern tower, looking out at the forest that had become home, and reflected on the journey that had brought her here. 1.5 years ago, she'd been a woman so broken and desperate that she'd been willing to accept a mating contract with a stranger. She'd been sure her life would always be about survival, about scraping by, about never having anything more. Now she had everything: a family, a community, a purpose, a future she could actually envision, and it looked bright. The next morning, as she put on the dress Sophie had helped her choose, white and silver, simple and elegant, Elena thought about the different versions of herself. The desperate single mother, the frightened woman about to transform, the confused new pack member, the warrior, the Luna, the wife. She was all of them, and she was ready to choose it all again. Chapter 12. The clearing was transformed. Thousands of candles floated in midair, held by magic. Flowers bloomed impossibly out of season. Sophie's doing, Elena knew. The pack gathered in concentric circles, hundreds of them, all waiting to witness the renewal. Elena stood at the edge of the clearing with Lily beside her, waiting for the music to begin. Her daughter was dressed in white too, smaller and perfect, already showing signs of the powerful woman she would become. Ready, Mommy? Lily whispered. Ready, baby, Elena confirmed. And then they walked forward, mother and daughter, toward the man waiting at the clearing's center. Kade wore a suit of dark silver that matched his eyes. His hair was neat for once, his face carefully composed, but Elena could feel the emotion radiating through the pack bond: nervousness, joy, love so profound it almost hurt to be near. They stood before each other, and the master of ceremonies, a position now held by a woman named Claire who'd been one of Marcus's victims and had become one of the pack's most important spiritual leaders, began the ritual. We gather to witness choice, Claire said, her voice carrying across the clearing. We gather to see two people, bound by magic 1 year ago out of necessity, choose again to bind themselves out of love. Elena and Kade, do you approach this renewal of vows of your own free will? I do, Kade said, his eyes never leaving Elena's. I do, Elena echoed. Lily, Claire said, turning to the young woman. You are their daughter, their blood. Do you support this renewal? I do, Lily said, stepping forward. She pulled out the paper she'd been working on all week, and she began to speak. My mom used to be scared, Lily said, her young voice ringing clear across the clearing. She was scared that the world was too hard, that people were too mean, that she couldn't survive. And then my dad found us, and at first, I didn't understand. I thought he was bad because of his father. I thought he was going to hurt us, The clearing was silent, listening. But he didn't, Lily continued. He protected us. He helped Mom become strong. And then Mom helped him become better. And now they're not scared anymore. They're happy. And they saved a lot of people while they were getting happy. And I think that's the best love story I know. Not because it was magic, even though there was magic, but because they chose it. They both could have given up, but they didn't. Lily looked directly at Kade and Elena. I'm glad you chose each other. And I'm glad I get to have a family that actually chose each other. That makes me feel safe. That makes me believe in happy endings. There wasn't a dry eye in the clearing. Elena pulled her daughter into her arms, and over Lily's head, she met Kade's gaze. His eyes were wet with tears. Claire continued with the ceremony. Kade Blackwood, she said, do you take Elena Hartwell as your mate, your partner, your chosen family? Do you commit to building a life with her based not on magic or duty, but on love? I do, Kade said. Completely. With everything I am. Elena Hartwell, Claire said. Do you take Kade Blackwood as your mate, your partner, your chosen family? Do you commit to building a life with him based not on magic or duty, but on love? I do, Elena said. Forever. I choose him forever. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Not the formal vows of the pack, but personal promises about what they wanted to build together, what they wanted to become for each other. And then they kissed, and the pack howled, a sound of celebration and joy that echoed across the forest. The feast that followed was legendary. Food appeared as if by magic, because Sophie had coordinated with the kitchen staff to create dishes that appeared in waves throughout the evening. The pack danced and celebrated. There was music and laughter and dancing in human form and in wolf form, transformations seamless and joyful. Elena danced with Kade and with Lily and with Sophie. She danced with Mara, who'd become one of her closest friends. She danced with survivors who'd built new lives, with young pack members learning what community meant, with elders who decided to stay when they'd initially considered leaving. And as the night deepened, she found herself on the eastern tower with Kade, watching the moon rise, full and beautiful and no longer terrifying. How are you feeling? Kade asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Happy, Elena said simply. I don't think I even have a word grand enough for what I'm feeling. A year ago, I was so desperate I was willing to do anything. And now I have everything I need. Family, purpose, safety, and I have it with you. I was thinking, Kade said, his voice soft, about what Lily said, about love being a choice. I've been thinking a lot about choice lately, about the fact that my father never gave people choices, and I spent so long trying to prove I was different that I almost forgot what choice actually means. What does it mean to you? Elena asked. It means every day, Kade said. I wake up next to you, and I could take you for granted. But I don't. Every day, I choose to show up for you. Every day, I choose to do better than I did the day before. Every day, I choose to be worthy of the love you're giving me. That's beautiful, Elena said. And I want to ask something, Kade continued. I know we talked about maybe having children, and I want to do that. But I also want to make sure that's something you truly want, not something you feel obligated to do. Because we have Lily, and we have the pack, and if it's just us and her and our community, that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. Elena turned in his arms to face him. I want to have your biological children, she said. I want to create life with you, not because it's duty or because it's what's expected, but because I love you and I want to see what we create together. Does that answer your question? It does, Kade said. And I'm ready when you are. Soon, Elena said. Not immediately, because there's so much to do, so many people to help. But soon. A year or two, maybe. Enough time to establish everything we're working on, to make sure the pack is stable, and then we expand our family. I like that plan, Kade said. They stood together on the tower, and Elena felt the full weight of her transformation. Not the transformation into werewolf. That was just the beginning, just the vehicle for the real change. The real transformation had been into a person who believed she deserved love, into a woman who could lead, into a mother who could model strength for her daughter, into a partner who could stand beside someone and choose them, again and again, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Below them, the pack was still celebrating. They could hear the music, the laughter, the joy. And Elena realized that what they'd built wasn't just a pack. It was a family. A chosen family made up of people who'd found each other in the dark and decided to light up the world together. "I love you," Elena said. "I love you," Kade replied. "So much." And then they descended the tower to rejoin their pack, to continue the celebration, to live into the life they'd built together. The magic of the mating contract had faded long ago. But the magic of choice, of commitment, of love freely given, that magic was just getting started. Chapter 13. 6 months after the renewal of vows, Elena stood in the kitchen of the home she and Kade had built just outside the main compound. It was a beautiful space, stone and glass, warm and welcoming, filled with plants and light. Lily sat at the kitchen table doing homework, a glass of milk beside her, completely absorbed in a problem set about quantum mechanics. At 9 years old, she was already surpassing most adults in her intellectual capabilities, but she remained humble about it, always ready to help other pack members understand complex concepts. "This is cool, Mommy," Lily said, looking up from her work. "Did you know that particles can be in 2 places at once? It's called quantum superposition. It's like when I transform, except I'm not in both forms at the same time. I wonder if there's magic happening at a quantum level that makes that possible." "That's a fascinating question," Elena said, setting down the vegetables she was preparing for dinner. "Have you talked to Sophie about that?" "I'm going to tonight," Lily said. "She's coming for dinner, right?" "She is," Elena confirmed. "It'll be the usual crew, Sophie, Mara, Claire. And Kade should be back from his meeting with the other regional alphas any minute." In the year since Kade had begun reaching out to other werewolf packs, things had begun to shift across the paranormal world. Packs that had operated in isolation for centuries were starting to connect. Hierarchies that had been based purely on dominance and power were beginning to evolve. Kade and Elena's model, pack structure based on merit and consent, leadership that listened to challenges, community built on care, was spreading. Not without resistance, of course. Some alphas were threatened by the changes. Some packs rejected the new models entirely. But the seeds had been planted, and change, however slow, was beginning. The front door opened, and Kade appeared, looking slightly windswept but satisfied. "How was the meeting?" Elena asked as he kissed her, lingering for a moment longer than was strictly necessary. "Good," Kade said. "The Eastern Pack has agreed to work with our refugee integration program. They're going to start helping humans find their way to sanctuary. And the Northern Alliance is considering restructuring their council to include younger voices." "That's amazing," Elena said. "It is," Kade agreed. He pulled Lily into a hug as she jumped up from her homework. "And how's my brilliant daughter doing?" "I have a theory about quantum mechanics and magical transformation," Lily said immediately, launching into explanation. Kade listened attentively, asking questions, encouraging his daughter's intellectual curiosity. And Elena felt the familiar warmth of watching her family together. This had become normal for them. This warmth, this connection, this sense of being genuinely loved and valued. It still sometimes caught Elena off guard. She'd spent so long expecting disappointment that actual contentment could feel surreal. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Elena and Kade sat on their porch overlooking the forest. Sophie and Mara had left an hour ago. The compound was quiet, peaceful, safe. "I've been thinking," Kade said, his hand finding Elena's, "about legacy. About what we're building. About what we're leaving behind." "We're leaving a lot," Elena said. "Hundreds of pack members who've been given second chances. Humans who've found their way to safety. Children growing up in a community that values them. That's a legacy." "It is," Kade agreed. "But I want to document it. I want to write down what we've built and how we built it, so that even if something happens to us, the knowledge is preserved. The methodologies are preserved. Future leaders can look back and understand what we did and why." "Are you planning on something happening to us?" Elena asked, feeling a flutter of concern. "No," Kade said firmly. "But I'm old enough to understand that life is unpredictable. And I want to make sure that if anything does happen, our work continues. That the vision continues." Elena understood. She'd learned that Kade's thoughtfulness, his tendency to plan and prepare, came from a place of love and care, not paranoia. "Then let's start writing tomorrow," she said. "We'll document everything. The transformation of the pack, the refugee programs, the political changes. We'll create a manual for future leaders." They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the forest, feeling the pack bond around them. Hundreds of minds connected in sleep and peace. "I'm going to ask you something," Kade said, And I want you to answer me truly, not what you think I want to hear. Are you happy? With all of this? With me, with the pack, with the life we've built? Elena turned to him. In the moonlight, his face was beautiful and vulnerable and open. Completely, she said. 1.5 years ago, I was so desperate I would have accepted anything to survive. Now I have actual happiness. I have community. I have purpose. I have a partner I genuinely love, and a daughter who's thriving, and people who care about us. I don't have everything. There are still problems to solve, still people suffering, still injustice in the world. But the part of my life that I can control is beautiful. And that's more than I ever thought I'd have. Kade pulled her close. Thank you for choosing this, for choosing me, for being brave enough to transform. Thank you, Elena replied, for seeing me, for valuing me, for believing I was worth protecting. They sat together into the night, and Elena felt the completeness of it. From desperate single mother to Pack Luna, from survivor to leader, from broken to whole. The moon looked down on them, the same moon that had witnessed her transformation, and Elena understood that this was the real magic. Not the supernatural elements, not the werewolf abilities, not the magical bonds. The real magic was the everyday kind. The kind that came from showing up for people, choosing them, building community with them. Lily was asleep in her room, safe and loved and thriving. The pack was at peace across the compound, all connected through the bond, all supported by leadership that actually cared about their well-being. Kade held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, and Elena held him back with equal fierceness. And somewhere in the space between them, in the space that had been built from choice and time and commitment, there was a magic that surpassed anything in the lore books. The magic of truly belonging. The magic of being genuinely loved for who you were, not what you could provide. The magic of a woman who'd learned she was worth saving, and a man who'd learned redemption was possible. From broken to whole, Elena whispered. From forced to free, Kade echoed. And as the moon watched over them, two people who'd been shattered by circumstance and remade by choice lay together in peace, secure in the knowledge that they'd built something worth protecting, and that they would keep building it, day after day, choice after choice forever. This was the epilogue. Not an ending, but a beginning. The real beginning of a life lived fully, a family built intentionally, a future created through conscious choice. This was forever free. And so, beloved listener, we come to the end of Elena and Kade's story. But really, it's not an ending at all. It's a transformation into a new beginning. From the very first chapter, when Elena was desperate, exhausted, and on the edge of desperation, to the final moment when she stands secure in a life she built with intention and choice, we've watched a woman transform. Not just into a werewolf, though that happened, but into herself. Into a leader, a lover, a mother who could model strength for her daughter. Into a person who believed she deserved happiness. And Kade's journey, from a man trapped by his father's legacy and his own guilt, to an alpha who chose mercy over revenge, who chose to build something new instead of perpetuating what came before. That's the kind of redemption story that gives me hope about humanity. We learned that the real power isn't in supernatural abilities or magical bonds. The real power is in choice, in showing up day after day and choosing love, choosing growth, choosing to be better than you were before. The real power is in building community with people who've been broken and helping them heal. I want to take a moment to thank you, listener. Thank you for spending this time with Elena and Kade and Lily. Thank you for believing in their journey. Thank you for caring about their growth. And I want to ask you, which character moment resonated with you most? Was it Elena's first transformation? Was it Kade choosing mercy over revenge? Was it Lily growing into her power? I'd love to know. The stories that touch us say something about who we are. Please like this episode, subscribe for more paranormal romance stories, and enable notifications so you never miss a new release. The paranormal world is vast and full of untold stories. Next week, we're moving into a new world, a vampire tale with morally gray characters and complications that will make your heart ache. But for now, remember this. You are worthy of love freely chosen. You are capable of transformation. And wherever you are in your journey, from broken to whole, from forced to free, from alone to family, your story matters. Your choice matters. Until next time, beautiful souls, keep choosing yourself. Keep choosing growth. Keep choosing love. Good night.